Today we're going to be taking a look at resumes and cover letters. The layout that I'm going to be reviewing with you is pretty much a business industry standard, and it's what's currently accepted. There are a lot of different resume and cover letter designs available. Most important is that your resume and cover letter are each one page. The only time you would have a resume or cover letter longer than that is if you're applying to an academic position, and that's because you're actually using what's called a curricula vitae. And it's has to include all of your presentations and research and a lot of different additional documentation. But a resume, even at the master's level, should be no longer than one page. This is because people have very limited time to be able to review your materials. You generally have a maximum of 3 seconds to be able to grab their attention. So that would be that long, not a lot of time. And if you're applying through software, you don't even have that because it's pulling the resumes that they're going to look at based on an algorithm. So usually they put in the minimum education that they want, minimum experience, and then from that point on, it's what words did you pull from the job description and use in your resume that cross-reference. So if you also have worked with others or cash handled or whatever applies, then that would pull that up and you would be flagged and tagged to be able to be reviewed. Then they would pull the resumes. They glance at them long enough to be able to make sure that they have the necessary components. Then sometimes they're looking to see if you're a local candidate because they're not wanting to pay for relocation. They're looking to see how long you've worked with other companies. Do you job hop? Have your responsibilities grown over time as you've had different positions? So those kinds of things. And their goal is to narrow down, because quite often companies can get upwards of 1,500 applications for one job opening, and they need to be able to get it down to about 10. So they have to choose. By the time they get to 10, any of those people could do the job. They're all qualified. That's not even the issue. Then they're going to be looking at the cover letter to make sure that they can work with someone who can write a complete sentence. And then phone interviews are conducted. You want to know the answers to the questions, but primarily they're looking, is this someone I could work with and not want to kill? And they want to know if they would get along with you. And then assuming that that is a yes, then you might be either hired or asked to come down for an in-person interview and go from there. So let's start with the resume. I've included a template that you can use. You will, of course, want to remove, and unfortunately some people don't think about it, but you want to remove that resume layout in that top left corner when you're putting yours together. It's simply a page header for the description for here. And you'll want to replace all of the instructions with your actual information. Your name is in at least 18 point, address, city, state, zip, phone, and email. When you have your email in there, make it something professional. I actually had a student at University of Oregon. She was Sweet Cherry 69, and she had that on there, and we had to have her change it because it was very awkward. So from that point forward, we required all students to use their school email addresses so that we didn't have to deal with that any further. So keep in mind, you do want to be taken seriously with your email. Then it used to be that at the top of your resume, you put in your goals. My goal is to work for a company that is supportive and allows me to grow so that I can expand my knowledge working in this area over the next few years or whatever. Well, duh, you're applying for the job because you want the job. So that's gone by the wayside because it's wasted. And instead, you start off with your strengths. Any achievements that you have, any skills, and that would go in that top area. So it replaces this stupid section. So you're looking for things that can separate you from others. Are you bilingual? Awesome. Include that. Do you have strong cash handling? Maybe you have extensive customer service experience. Maybe you've won awards at school. So anything that you have that showcases how you stand out from others would be helpful here. Then, because you have recent education, that section goes next. So you're going to lead with your degree so that they know how it ties in, and then your date of completion. So if you expected it in June of 2025, great, just list that. You only include your GPA if it's high, and even then you only need it if you're going into finance or accounting. Beyond that, it isn't necessary to include. And if you don't have a high GPA and you're planning to work in finance or accounting, think again. You're not going to get hired without it. After your education, and if you have more than one, your most recent goes first, and then as they get older. Experience the most recent first, and usually you use past tense for everything, even your current position. You can include volunteer and school positions as well. Just make sure that they are indicated. Like in this one, the JCPenney's, it was a management internship. If you're going to need to include jargon, make sure that it's common enough that people would easily understand it. But primarily, you're going to want to avoid using industry jargon because you'll likely be applying for more than one industry, and that way you don't have to worry about understanding. If you can use percentages to tie what you have done into your successes, so much the better, because it quantifies your knowledge and it just shows your expertise. Below your experience goes interests and activities. The reason this is brought in is it's the icebreaker. It's what you are going to use to talk about when you first get into your interview. They want to know you as a person as well as an employee a little bit. So you want some hobbies, some interests, if you're a volunteer. So anything that can show diversity and can relate to your career goals, maybe some travel, something like that. You want to avoid controversial topics. So things that would mess with their insurance rates. You wouldn't list that you're a wreck diver. You wouldn't list that you skydive. I don't know that you would want to list, this is highly personal, any church-related materials. So that's totally up to you, but it could affect people's thoughts. Better to keep things just neutral at this point until they get to know you. References are no longer included on a resume because they're spread too wide, and you submit them on a separate sheet, so it would have the same header as your resume, so you'd have your name and your information. But here where it says personal strengths, you would have references, and then you would have the person's contact information, how you know them, and why you're listing them as a reference. But it would be a separate document. That way it can be held more confidentially. You want 1-inch margins and easy to read font. You want to be able to use different formats of the font. So being able to have bold for the company, or italics, or not italics for everything. So being able to adjust, it's going to be able to create more interest on your resume and draw attention. 11 or 12 point type, so make it easy for them to read. And it's pretty straightforward. Here is an example of one. So Julie Smith and her contact info, her skills, lead things off. Then she has education. She has some course highlights. She included this because her resume is short. So being able to include some course highlights helps fill that page in. And it gives a little bit more information about what she's studied. She has a little bit of experience and a little bit of volunteerism. And then she has her activities and her interests. So she has some things that she can talk about during that icebreaker section. And that's it. That fills out her resume. It works beautifully. Gets across what she needs to get across to people and keeps it to the point. And notice how the sentences are complete. Whether you put periods on the end or not is a personal preference, but you do want to make sure that you give information. But it doesn't need to start with, I maintained MS Access database, or I coordinated. You just start with the active verb. Okay, that's the resume. Your cover letter uses the same header. This is because things get lost, and if they can match your headers together, they know it's the same person. So it is a big help. Again, 1-inch margins, get rid of the cover letter layout, get rid of the instructions. You want the contact name and their information. And if you don't know it, you can always call the HR department and find out. First name and last name. If it is a committee who's going to be doing the interview, then you can write Dear Search Committee or Dear Search Committee members. Then you have your first paragraph, and you're going to say why you are writing. If you have someone who referred you, include that, because that's going to clear you a path that's much faster to that interview. So being able to have them on the cover page really helps cut through the layers. So oftentimes as they're flipping through, if someone has a referred person, then they automatically go to the interview pile, as long as they have those minimum qualifications. So it's a big help. Give an overview of your letter. I'm writing to apply for the position of fill in the blank with blank company as advertised in blank. My background and experience in blah, blah, blah make me a strong candidate for the blank position. So, and then that's your introductory paragraph. Your body paragraph is going to tie into the strengths that are listed, that you have, that are listed in the job description. So whatever they list is most important is going to be their first item in that you need to be able to do area of the job description. So you want to be able to tie in that, hey, I'm really good at that. I can do this. And then going down. You want to include specific examples of your knowledge and experience. And then you want to close with a paragraph and conclusion sentence on how your work will impact the employer. So, as an example, my previous work experience has allowed me to develop my communications and customer service skills. So that's that general sentence. Now you're going to drill down. During the past 2 summers, I conducted marketing research for Kimberly Nurseries, a company specializing in custom landscape designs. I surveyed over 100 homeowners regarding their garden improvement activity and analyzed the data for patterns and preferences. Now I am looking to utilize this experience by helping your company improve communication with retailers and assisting them with evaluating e-commerce possibilities for computer-based entertainment. So they tied what they did in for that company into how it could, even though it's not the same thing, how it could be utilized in this for your company or the other company. Then you have a conclusion paragraph that reminds them that, hey, I'm interested in this position, and then next steps. There's 2 ways to go with the next steps. There's proactive, I will contact you to see how things are going. And then there's reactive. I look forward to hearing from you soon and just to discuss the hiring process. So depending upon your personality, which one you feel more comfortable with. And then you have this, your sincerely and your typed your signature, electronic, and then always type your name below that. And that's it for your cover letter. Here's an example. Notice that it matches the resume. Then you have your date, your contact information, the information about the position that you're applying for, and then your salutation. Opening paragraph, consider me for the position. This is the why, completing a degree. My resume shows I have a knowledge of office procedures and preparing financial reports, so those would have been in the job description. And you can do those specific tasks. And then you tie it into, this is the why I am applying, familiar with construction, available for your interview at your convenience. Thank you for your time and consideration. Julie Smith, and then Julie Smith. So that is resume and cover letter. 1 page each. And then I included this as a finishing touch, action verb list for a resume. You don't want to say I worked at, or primarily I worked at. You don't want that. You want more interesting, more descriptive terminology for what you did within your job. So depending upon assistance, creation, negotiation, organization, a bunch of different, I need to bold that. A bunch of different verbs you can use that explain or help explain what it is that you've done or do. And then when you're writing bullet points for your resume, you want to be as descriptive as possible without a lot of wording. So here, this person's job was to set lunch out. So put food supplies out for workers. Okay. What were you doing? Why were you doing it? So trying to get more information into that sentence. So organized food supplies to increase access for busy employees during peak business hours. So it provides a little bit more that includes the why and the how. And that is what I'm looking for from you, is your cover letter and resume. I encourage you to jump into Indeed or LinkedIn and take a look at jobs. Find a job you're interested in and use that as you are developing your materials. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, or you can reach out to the Workforce Development Department at Reynolds, and they can help you as well. Let me know if you have questions, and I look forward to reading your materials.